today, and thank you so much for joining us on this Mindful Monday. We're so happy you are here joining us today. As you know, we enjoy being your resource for education, connections, and collaborations to support you on your wellness journey. And of course, as always, I have to start out by thanking my sponsors, Dr. Norma Hollis, White Sands Premier Travel, and Vibe, because without these sponsored appearances, Mindful Mondays just would not be possible. So thank you, truly. I am super excited to have Dr. Norma Hollis with me today. She is the architect of authentic leadership. And as we all know, life does not hand us manuals on how to navigate adversity and build an unshakable mindset or even lead with emotional intelligence. But Dr. Norma Hollis, she has been writing that playbook for decades. And so she is here today to help us go from chaos to clarity. So Dr. Norma, thank you so much for joining us today.
Laura, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Mindful Monday. Yes, I love it.
Thank you. So, you got to tell us what sparked your passion for authenticity and how has that shaped your personal and your professional life?
Well, I really believe I was born for this because this keeps showing up in my life. And it was most profound when I was 28. And I realized I had become my parents' version of who they thought a Black woman should be in America. And so I had the husband. He had a good job. I had a good job. We had cars. We had a house, money in the bank. We had all the things that are supposed to make you deliriously happy. And I was miserable. And I didn't know what to do with myself yet because I didn't know who I was. So that's when I decided to figure out who am I. And I found 9 energies within me, and I related them to animals. That was the easiest way. Like an owl is not like a horse, is not like a mouse, not like a squirrel. They all have their different energies. So I did a little research on astrology, astronomy, Freud, Jung, ancient Egypt, all kind of things I put together and put this grid together of this 9 energies. And once I did that, then I decided to spend time figuring out, what's more to this grid, this energy that I put together. And that took 30 years of researching each of these 9 boxes I call 9 dimensions. And when I finished, I had a speaker bureau and I went around the country sharing what I had put together, and everybody resonated with it. They saw themselves the same way, and I knew I was onto something. And so that just kept growing and growing and evolving from there. And it's still evolving. So it's been quite a journey of self awareness and helping others to become more self aware. And learning that the more self aware and authentic we get, the more our energy, our vibrations, our frequencies raise. And then we just get happier, get more mindful. We get more caring. We get more aware, more acceptance of ourselves. So many positive things happen. So that's how it started, and it just keeps growing. It hasn't stopped.
I love that. And you're really kind of speaking my language because that's what I've always told people is like, I'm not in a box. I always done what I was supposed to do or what people thought you were supposed to do. And you can go through life that way, but you're really not truly happy. And I think that's exactly what it comes down to is that we're not being authentic to who we were meant to be or who we are.
Well, we all get on this path. What's true, what I found though, is that in my research, my original degree is in early childhood, child and family life sciences. And so what I learned from that on this authenticity journey is that children lose their authenticity as early as their preschool years, if not earlier. So many times, like when I was directing Head Start and preschool programs, you get these kids and they learn that I can sing, mommy. I was in school today and they loved hearing me sing. Let me sing for you. And the kids start singing, and mommy says, I had a long day. And the drive home was tough. I'm tired. Why don't you just go watch TV right now? And so the child thinking they have this wonderful gift that everyone loves, but mommy doesn't love it. So they step back a little further, and that just continues in the hustle and bustle that we go through in life as parents, sometimes not realizing our hustle and bustle is really short-sighting our children and their ability to grow. And so that's when it starts, and it gets compounded on from then. By the time we get to adult, it's like, well, who am I anyway? So
Yeah, I think probably between parents, peers, or ridicule from when you get beat down enough, you have a tendency to just kind of crawl into a shell and not just say, "Don't care what you think. This makes me happy," right?
And that's the other thing. They don't teach us self awareness and who we are. So we learn from the bullies. And the bullies don't know who we are. They just do the bully thing. And so that's who we think we are. So it's it's very confusing. Can be very
Right.
confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you define authenticity and why would you say that's so important in today's world?
Well, I call myself a God girl, and I believe that all of us come to the planet with a God-given purpose, and that's aligned to the gifts and talents that we were given. So, to me, authenticity is recognizing the natural gifts and talents you were born with, aligning with them, developing them, because that's the secret to who you are, who you were designed to be, and
Mhm.
what I call. I see in your intro you have these puzzle pieces, and I talk a lot about puzzle pieces. We're all a piece of the puzzle. And if we just get together and get connected together, the puzzle will come together. It will make a lot of sense. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do is put puzzle pieces together, at least in my life, when people that I work with, and finding my puzzle, putting my puzzle together so that my portion of what is my purpose to do for the bigger picture, is fulfilled. So that's what I see as the path, in a metaphorical way. It's just puzzle pieces coming
Yeah,
together.
and that's a great perception. Yeah, for me, 'cause it was kind of like because I always believe together we can do more. We
Hmm.
always feel like we're on our own and fighting the world by yourself. But I think there's just so much more we can do when we're together.
Yes,
Besides the
yes,
fact that I used to always love jigsaw puzzles. I love
me
things that.
too. Love
But you mentioned animals, and you and I were talking a little bit before we started because as you know, dolphins are pretty prevalent with me. What were you finding with that work with the different animals and the vibration and the frequencies? How does
well,
that?
the one thing I found, I hook rugs. So when I did these 9 energies, I made them into a rug. And 30 years later, I started another rug and I realized that my energies had changed. So, where originally my intuition, which is one of my dimensions, was an owl, because my intuition would be in the night, in the shower where I'm just thinking, and doing that, thinking. But
Uh-huh.
now my intuition is more a butterfly, because I'm more morphing, I'm growing, I'm transitioning, and I transform other people. So that's a different perspective, and that's who I have grown into. The thinking changed me to still a flying, so it's related, but now a butterfly in a different way. My and so the energies is a great way for us to understand ourselves, because we don't learn about who we are, and there's no difference in the different. How do you differentiate one's energy from another unless you know them? We don't look, like an owl and a horse look differently. You can tell that. Humans, we look the same except for our color, our size, those kind of things. So
Right.
it's not written on us what our energy is supposed to be. We just use it. So the animal piece, I think, is very helpful because they are so different, and there's so many choices that you can pick from, and so it's easier to see yourself or your energies when you align them to animals versus just a word, taken off the shelf somewhere. So it does make a difference, and then seeing how they evolve. So that's what I found in my growth. Some of the animals that I had originally are still there. Some of them are no longer there, and they've been replaced by other. Like butterfly wasn't there when I wrote my first grid, but I
Right.
clearly see the cocoon and the flying and the changing, the transformation that butterflies make, and how that's a part of my life. So it's just that self-awareness piece, and maintaining it and continuing. It's not something that you do and you leave alone, because we're all evolving. If you're living, our cells change every 120 days or so. So we change also a lot along with that, and just recognizing that. I think the difference of that is what I call autopilot, which is
Hmm.
the opposite of being authentic. So many of us get on autopilot. And I was really surprised to learn recently that 69% of the population just wants to be told what to do. I just, really?
Yeah, it's a staggering number. Yeah.
It's staggering. Yeah, yeah. So I can just tell you what to do. You're going to do it. It's like, what happened to free choice and free will and individuality and getting outside the box? But I guess people are happy in the box. It's just interesting. So.
Yeah, or they just or don't know anybody. I don't know what that is, a lack of, but yeah, so many things you see come passed down, and people think, "Oh no, I have to do this." Why? Because somebody else said so, and it's like we have brains, we have our own free will. You can make your own choices.
And that's called authenticity. So if you're not making your decision, you're certainly not being authentic, for sure. So
No, no. If you're just kind of like following in the flow, then you're kind of it's kind of a fake persona, right? Because it's
like,
you're not
mm,
really being who you truly are meant to be.
mm.
Yeah. And when you talk about those frequencies, so we've learned frequencies, energies. I mean, we learned that kind of stuff in school, at least back in my day when we grew up, but we didn't learn at it about it as it relates to people or animals.
Right.
It was always other things, but yet it's been around for what, thousands, whatever
Well, they
years.
poo that when they found other ways to make money on something else, I think is what it is, because we're such a capitalistic society. So most things that are changed, there's a money, element to it. But it's coming back around now. I do have several mentors, and one of them said, I never knew there was so much money in spirituality. Well, it's coming back because people realize that the nonsense about money making you money is everything and it rules and all your happiness comes from money is just not true. Your happiness is an inside job. It's I've met when I directed Head Start programs that was low income people. When I
Hmm.
had the speaker bureau, I met a lot of wealthy people. And I'll tell you, I found more joy among the people that had less money because they weren't worried about their money getting stolen or making more or whatever. But it seems that oftentimes the more money you're making, the more problems that often comes into, unless your mindfulness or your mindset is screwed on right. So
Right.
that's another challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and wealthy can mean different things to different people. To some
So,
people, it may mean 6, 7 figures. To other people, may just mean living happy and having a roof over their head. You're wealthy in other ways. It doesn't always mean money. It's what I think what you put on it, right?
well, that's what we talk about in the authenticity grid that I created, the 9 dimensions. There's one dimension that's called net wealth. And when I talk about it, I tell people first I ask them, so what does net wealth mean to you? Everybody says money, no matter where I am in the world, money, money. I say, well, let me give you another perspective. What about joy? What about abundance? Because I've met people that have lots of money but are not joyful. But
Right,
joy, wouldn't you rather have joy? And what brings you joy? And they'll tell you family, spirituality, church, projects, people, whatever. But no one ever says money. It's a necessity, but it's not really what brings you joy. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
it takes a lot of hard work being an entrepreneur, and not a lot of people understand that. I'm like, could I go out and get a job and work for somebody? I could, but I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy. So for me, it's just not worth it. And I think it takes a lot when people have to get to that point to realize, what is making them happy. Because I tell people, I said, if what you're doing is not lighting you up, then it's just a job. It's just a
It,
means to the end,
it's
right?
just things, and define it as that. But what I help tell people to do is find your top gifts. There's a gentleman named Dr. Howard Gardner who created the multiple gifts of intelligence theory. And I
Hmm.
advise people to look at the 9 gifts that he talks about and find the 3 that are most related to you. And ask yourself if you're spending your days in your job or whatever you're doing for your career or your income, are you using one of your top 3 gifts? Because if you're not, you're probably not very happy. And now maybe you use those gifts in the evening or the weekend, that's fine. But the more you incorporate the gifts that were given to you at birth into your life, the happier you're going to be because that's really who you are. That's your authenticity.
Right. Do you ever have people come to you that maybe feel like they're so lost or just in that robot mode that they don't even know what their gifts or skills are?
Absolutely. A lot of people get to that. We're taught as teenagers to find a job that's going to make us money. And since computers are coming in, since AI is coming in, that's what you should do. That's where the money is.
Yeah.
But what if I don't like that? That's not a consideration. You need money. So, that's what parents would often teach their children. And then most people that I know that get past 40, 50, 60 did not spend their career in the thing they got their degree in. They maybe use that and to leverage it, but most people are not in the same field that they thought they wanted to be in when they started college. So it's more like knowing yourself and really knowing what drives you and knowing where you get your joy and pleasure from and leveraging that in what you do day to day for your income. And if you can't find it, create it. That's what I did. I knew as a young child when I was young that my degree was in early child was in the first teaching,
Mhm.
and I taught for 30 days. I said, I can't do this the rest of my life. This is awful. I like to help people and I like to work for children, but not with them. It's a difference. So
Yeah, there is a difference. Yeah.
there's a difference. So, it's still teaching, but it's teaching in a different way. So I just created my own path. It wasn't easy. And that's when I learned that a lot of entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs because they have something to do in the world. They have a purpose to fulfill, a mission, whatever. And you can't do that when you have a full-time job. Sometimes it gets in the way. I mean, you need the money, but they'll sacrifice the as an entrepreneur, knowing that the money is not as easy to come by, but the freedom is there, the peace and the ability to do what it is you were assigned to do is a big difference.
Right. What tips, or is there a tip that you can give the audience or people of how to start if they don't know what their skill or passion is? Where would you have them start?
Well, I'd have you start from looking back in your childhood, before you were 10, before you were 7, before you were 5, whatever. And what did you really love to do? What is it that really turned you on? Was it singing? Was it running and or dancing? Or, just try to remember. Look at what you do in your spare time. Look at the things you do now that you do that you're not getting paid for, but you do because you enjoy them. Look at how you help other people, at how you help yourself. Look at the things you do outside of your job. When you finish your job, where do you go to? I remember I had a job a few decades ago where I worked for a company and I talked to people who just got laid off. And I'm thinking I'm going to go into a somber, depressed environment. They were so happy. But most of them said is, now I can do what I want to do. Isn't that amazing? You
Yeah.
could have done what you want to do in the first place. So when you realize that, you can create your own life. There is a certain path that people take, and no matter what you choose, there's a price you're going to pay. If you choose to take the job, which most of my family, they didn't understand me at all because they all took the security of the job, but then some of them were miserable because they didn't like the job and they didn't know how to move from it because they had done their life dependent on that job. Whereas I have far more joy than some of them do. I don't have the cash flow that they have, but that doesn't bother me because my needs are always met. So I can manage my desires, and I can make more money if I choose to do certain things, and some things I just don't want to do. So it's more choice. You have more choice, and I make my own boxes, and they're usually circles rather than boxes. So it just makes a difference.
I'm right there with you, except for I tell people I'm like, I'm not an in the box person.
Yeah.
I always look for, I was like, don't try to put box on me. Don't try to put my labels on me. People want to know, well, what is it that you do? They want like this label. I'm like, I love connecting people. I love talking to people. I'm like, you can throw whatever label you want on it. I don't subscribe to
Right,
labels.
right, yeah. I'm the same. No way, no labels. Just I'm just Norma.
Yeah.
It's just, and I may be different today than I am tomorrow, but because I'm a multi-dimensional person, as we all are. That's one thing I realized when I did my grid and found those 9 energies in there, that it's multi-dimensional. Some people will say, well, we're just single dimensional. We're all just, one person, one thing, but we all have multiple sides to us. If you
Mhm.
don't, something's wrong with you because if you don't realize it, because we all have that. And like I tell people, when you're saying, my thing is it's hot outside today. So you'll tell your child, baby, it's hot outside. Take those clothes off. You don't need all those clothes. And if it's your mother who's got dementia, Mom, come on. It's hot. It's hot. And if it's your lover, it's a whole different energy. So like yours, but different
That's
ways.
kind of hot.
It's
Yeah.
hot. So we have to realize that differentiation, we're all multidimensional, no matter how you look at it. So look at your own dimensions and find which one you stay in the most, because we all have a preference. For example, I have an assessment that goes with my grid. And it helps tell people whether they're more of an inner voice person. They like to be inside and listen inside before they make decisions. They're an outer voice person. They're concerned with how people perceive them, or they're an expressive voice person. They're more concerned with what they're doing in the world. And then they're either a thinker, communicator, or doer. And so when you start looking at that, you see all the varieties of who you can be, where your strengths are, where you're more vulnerable, and why certain things aren't working. And people who are thinkers need to have doers in their life, because a thinker will spend all time, I'm going to figure that out. I'm not going to do anything about it, but I'm going to figure it out. And doers are doing things, and I haven't thought about what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. But if you put them together, bingo, you've got some plans, you've got some strategy, and if you put a communicator in there, you have somebody to go market it for you. So it's just a different way of looking at how you live your life, who you're living it with, the companions you have, whether they're bringing you joy or bringing you down, or whether you can work together. It just helps you look at your situation in a more mindful way.
Yeah, I'd love to check out that assessment tool and see, because I've done the 16 personalities, I've done the disc one, and it just amazes me at how these, like, seems like off the wall questions, or even if you know what the question's getting at, and you're trying to answer it, so you know the answer still comes out the same. It still comes out truly to who you are. And I had that conversation with another guest I had on about the disc thing. I told her, I said, yes, I'm highly, IS, but I still have parts of the DC, and it's kind of like I'm not all introvert or extrovert. I'm an ambivert. I'm I'm in the middle, so I got like the whole hot combination mess going on.
Yeah, yeah, it can be
But
very interesting. They're interesting though because everyone gives you a peek at yourself, at the angle that it's taking. And so the more of those that you take, actually, the more you know yourself, and the more you understand the complexity and the multi dimensions that you have. So because we all have multi dimensions.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we have a lot more to discuss because there's a lot more about authenticity, is especially about how it contributes to emotional and everything else in our world. So we will get right back to that as soon as we get a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Relief for PTSD, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and many other ailments. Introducing Vibe, the world's only pocket PEMF device. You place in your pocket while cooking, cleaning, relaxing, watching TV, sitting at your computer, reading, or walking. Self-contained standalone device. No drugs. No other phone or Bluetooth connections required. No monthly subscription fees. No apps to download. No boson. The future of medicine is in the frequencies. Come join the revolution.
You know, the number one regret of people in nursing homes is that they didn't live their life with authenticity. I'm Dr. Norma Hollis. I'm known as the godmother of authenticity because I help people connect more deeply with their purpose. And purpose is something that everybody has. I even remember receiving mine. Life is far richer, more fulfilling, deeper. You understand more when you know why you are here.
So, Dr. Hollis, maybe you can share with us, how does authenticity contribute to the emotional and mental well-being?
Well, because it gives you more self-awareness. What I've learned in the training that I've done, I have a signature course that I teach people, and I have people that actually train that now. And whether I teach it or whether they teach it, what I have found with the people that are in the class is that it ends up raising their vibration. So it's something to do with the knowledge of who you are. In our class, we take them on a journey back in their life in each of the 9 dimensions of authenticity. And it gives them a chance to reflect on the decades that they've been here, decisions that they've made, thoughts that they've had, ways that they've looked at life, and how it's changed over the years and where they are right now. And in that process, it kind of frees them to accept their faults that they may have made, or the things that were negative in their life that did not serve them in certain ways. They learn from it. And the word that I always ask people, the word that people always give me when I ask them how the program has assisted them, they all say freedom. And that surprises me. And I've learned that that freedom comes from having an elevated consciousness, having raising their vibration, that self-awareness, that self-acceptance and self-management. It gives people a chance to understand themselves more and know how to manage themselves, their feelings, their past histories, their future, their plans are, and process it with what happened without fault, without blame, but just accepting these as facts. And now where am I going next? So it just really takes people deeper in that depth. You know, people spend so much time doing that they don't take time to reflect. So,
Right.
you know, they got to drive to work, and that takes time, and that's stressful, and they got to spend work with people that sometimes they don't even like or get along with, doing work they don't like to do sometimes. They got to drive back home with the same crowd and the same stress, and they got to fix dinner, and they go to bed and do it all over again. So it's like the life becomes so routine, and they haven't learned how to put the joy into that routineness that life gets. So it puts the joy back. And that joy, and the joy of knowing yourself and accepting yourself, even with the vulnerabilities, and recognizing that nobody's perfect, especially not oneself, and be perfectly okay with that. It gives them permission for those kind of things that they really never took time for. So that really enhances just that 11 weeks that we spend 2 hours on Monday nights, and they end up just with so much more self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-management, self-love, and accepting other people in the same way. So it just shifts their consciousness. So
Nice. So your course, you said, is like 11 weeks and it's at 2 hours on a Monday. So you get lots of time to spend. Is it a fairly small, like intimate group that way, or no?
yeah, it's about 10 people, generally no more than 12. And I have two instructors, and they spend a lot of time with you, and they guide you through, um, your life through each of the dimensions. Intuition is where we start, and looking at your inner voice and how you speak to yourself. We go to integrity, you look at your values. We go to inspiration, you look at what drives you, and that's the inner voice. We have the outer voice, which is how people perceive you. That's your wellness, how your well-being, how you take care of yourself, your net worth, the people that are in your life, your quality and quantity relationships, and your net wealth, as I said before, is joy and abundance. And
Yeah.
then there's your expressive voice, which is who you become in the world. And that starts with your gifts and talents, which is a lot about Dr. Howard Gardner's work that I mentioned earlier. It's your wisdom gifts, I call them. It's your spiritual gifts and your physical gifts, your body as a gift. And then it's likability, which is how you connect with other people. And then it's lifestyle, which is your habits. So all of those together, you get a chance to look at and examine what stands out in your life and how you have found authenticity in each of those nine dimensions. And just in that exploration and sharing and storytelling and remembering and reflecting and assessing, it just changes people. It's just a wonderful thing to watch them just blossom and just step up a few levels in their own joy and their own self acceptance and in their own hope for the future, particularly now with what we're going through in America and worldwide, and just the challenges that we seem to be facing individually and collectively. Is a great time to step into authenticity, because that's where you can find joy and you can find hope and understanding of a different level than the 69% that just want to be told what to do. So it puts you at a whole other level.
Yeah. And I don't think I'm not sure if we'll ever see a time where we're not going through something.
That's true, but there's depths and levels of what we're going through. This one is a little different. It's we've gone through it before, not in the same way, of course. This is the 2025 version of it, I guess,
Right.
and it will pass, as all things do, and hopefully pass for the better. But when you're at that point, you don't know, or you're anxious, what's going to happen, yada yada, you
Mm.
know, you just don't know. You just have to learn. And so the authenticity piece, when you know who you are, you can maneuver through all of these challenges, through all this chaos, to find your own clarity along it. Authenticity gives you clarity because it gives you peace of mind of who you are and that you're really okay. And you get to accept your shortcomings, your vulnerabilities, your faults, your mistakes, the things that you keep you up at night, and you realize all the positive things that you do have. That because we focus so much on what we don't have, but it helps you change and focus on what you do have, and that gives you freedom and clarity and removes the chaos. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great time. Yeah.
And I would say it's pretty much the anchor of everything, because I mean authenticity is important also, even if you're in leadership or in some kind of an executive role or a higher up dynamic as well.
Right. And people oftentimes use authenticity as just a buzzword and not really taking the depth. I've taken time, 30, 40 years to really go deep into it and really understand it in a deeper level. So I don't take it lightly. I don't take it as something just go be authentic. It's not that easy. You just can't say, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to be authentic. Yes, I am. But it doesn't work that way, because you have to go deeper. You have to go deep within inside, in your head, in your spirit, in your heart, in your past, in your future, in the things why you do what you do, and do it in a way that's not painful, that's supporting, that's allowing you to see the value that you bring in the world. Because when we get to the point after so many decades of routine, everything is routine. So you just
Right.
get up and do it again. But in the routineness of it, you forgot whose lives you've touched, how your life has been touched, the things you've done that are positive. So we help you remember that and realize how powerful you are, and give you the chance to step into that power and to be that person. And particularly now we're focusing a lot on helping people to speak up, because with the things that are going on, people need to speak what's on their mind without fear,
Right.
and just speak up, and speak up in groups. Just start to be comfortable speaking up and sharing your perspective, because that's what's required for authenticity, to know who you are and not be afraid to speak it.
Yeah. Do you find that's normally pretty helpful or can be done in the 11 weeks? Because I mean, if you have someone that's older and they've been in these old habits for a long time, and that's a lot of years to unravel.
It can be done. I've seen it happen over and over again. Doesn't matter what age the person is. Sometimes they go through my program and they're saying, "I'm not sure what this is working or what I'm getting," and they don't realize the change that's happening inside until the end is over. Then they say, "Oh, I feel better." So now we're doing pre and post tests, and I'm even doing pre and post video recordings. This
Mhm.
was you when you started. Now
Right.
this is you now. So can you see the difference? Because when I see the difference with them, when I see them for the exit interview, where they came in, kind of, well, it's good to be here. I don't know what to expect, and they leave. I'm so glad I was here. It was such a great experience. It's just their whole countenance has changed. So it really it does things. It was something that was channeled through me. So
Mhm.
it's not like I said, I'm going to write an authenticity program. It wasn't like that. It was like I found out, oh, I did this on myself. Oh, there's more to it. Oh, I wrote books on it. Oh, there's even more to it. And I'm still evolving it from there. So to me, that's what we're here for, to continue to evolve, not just to turn widgets for 30 years for somebody else's dream, but
Right.
to find the dream that you have and take the steps, even if they're small baby steps, but to the steps that's going to fulfill you and allow you to do what you want to do on the planet, not just what you feel you have to do. Because I don't think this is not this should not be a have to do place. It should be a want to do, because it's got so much beauty and joy here on the planet. But we just sometimes get introduced to the money woes and the people woes and all the negative things. And there's so much more in the world. And it's easy to get caught up in that and forget about the joy and the authenticity and what your purpose is and why you're on the planet. That's where you get really joy, when you know your purpose and you're really fulfilling it. That's a
Yeah.
deep, deep joy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's always those undercurrents that are like looking and waiting to pull you down or, pull you under. But like you said, when you're truly authentic and stuff and you can at least realize it, step back and just, I don't know, take a deep breath or just reassess what you're looking at. When you have the tools, right? When you
Mhm.
have the tools to change, then you can make those changes.
A couple of things I want to mention, that the number one regret of people in nursing homes
Mhm.
is that they didn't live their authentic life, that they lived their life by other people's choices and decisions and not their own. That's the number one regret. And authenticity really, it just changes people when they realize that they can be authentic, that they can be the person that they were born to be. It's a choice. It's just a choice. And as all choices, they take adjustments sometimes, as authenticity does. But what it reveals to you is so, 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 so powerful and so necessary. So I want to give people a tip about how they can connect with their authenticity, because authenticity starts in your inner voice, your ability to listen to and trust and respond to your inner voice. So, what I help people to do is to connect with that inner voice. So, think about, there's three questions you ask yourself every day. Everybody does this. You
Okay.
ask yourself when you wake up, what time is it? You ask yourself, what am I going to wear? And you ask yourself, what am I going to eat? Which you ask sometimes many times. So if you look at how the answer comes to you, is it a thought? Is it a memory? Is it a smell, a taste in your mouth, a feeling, something in your gut? If you think about how that answer comes, then you're realizing how your voice, your inner voice, your spirit speaks to you. And so pay attention. So when you feel that feeling, when you see that vision, when you see the words coming in or words speaking into your brain or into your ear or however it's coming into your heart, that's how your voice speaks to you. And so pay attention, because it often has many things to share with you if you just learn to listen to it and trust it.
Yeah, I love that. As I always tell people, your body's trying to tell you, you just got to learn how to listen to it. But
So
how
true.
often do we slow down to, because I never even thought about that. You think about something, you're looking at an answer, wasn't thinking about how did that answer come to me or why did that kind of answer come to me. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
wow,
It
I
goes
love this.
a little deeper than the most things, but it helps you get deeper than yourself because we're deeper than we know. They say we only use a small percentage of who we are and what we are. We have so many skills and gifts, but we're taught to be fearful. We're taught to be afraid. We're taught to put other people down. We're not. Our environment, our society is not taught to raise people up. To raise yourself up. You raise yourself up, you're considered selfish, but you gotta do that for yourself. You have to do that for yourself. So
Same thing
that's
with self care. Everybody always said, "Oh, self care, selfish. Why are you doing that?" It's like you have to. If you
yeah.
don't, what do you have to give to anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself?
Yeah, and then they also say that you're not supposed to use your gifts and talents for money. Why you think they get given to you? They're of course use them to money. How you that's where your joy comes from, what you do naturally. It's the thinking that we're shifting. So seeking
Yeah,
to
the
yeah.
bad wiring.
Which we all
the,
have in one
the
way or
bad
another.
wiring we've had for God knows how many years.
Yes, indeed.
So, is there maybe a transformation that was just that you witnessed that you would like to share with us, or something that's happened from one of your
Yeah,
clients?
I've had a lot of people that this is in my early days when I didn't understand my own gifts and how I could impact people. But frequently they would say to me, "Oh my gosh, I've only been here 10 minutes and you answered a question I've been asking myself for 20 years. My goodness." So when you get to know
Mhm.
yourself, you can probably find that you have the ability to read other people. Many of us do have that gift and we don't always recognize it, or we're shy or we're scared of it. We hear something and it's don't know where it's coming from or don't know what the reality is. But those are transformations that are a part of everybody. And, if we just have to turn them on and get out of that 69% that want to be just told what to do, tell yourself what to do, and then make your own choices and use your own critical thinking. Those are the important parts because critical thinking is not taught that much either. It's taught how to just follow directions. And life is so much more than that, so much more.
Yeah, so on that note, I've had a class in college that was critical thinking. It's only critical thinking if you thought the way the teacher thought. I'm like, is that I'm missing something here because critical thinking I thought meant we had our own,
Mhm.
but oh yeah, I went to battle with one of them and I was just like, okay, I'm just done with this.
Yeah, well,
Just
you
yeah,
keep you were thinking too critically for him. He couldn't take it.
apparently, yeah, and it wasn't the way he critically thinks, so it was not a good fit at
Exactly,
all.
exactly. But there's a lot of that. But we have to encourage people to really, use their own thoughts. There's been no major change that's occurred from common people. The change comes when you step outside the box and you choose to be different and you're confident enough to speak up about it. And more people have changed that could be positive, but they're afraid to speak up. So remember that you think about all the change that's happened in the world, they've been people who are outside of the box. It hasn't always been pleasant and it
No.
always hasn't been positive, but positive or negative, that's what happens. So stay on the positive side, please, but let your thoughts get out there because you never know. One thought that you have may be something that could change somebody's life.
Yeah,
So
and I think most of our biggest inventions and stuff we've got today were by people that people thought were nuts.
yeah,
Right?
and
So
they work nuts. That's where new information comes from, the nutty ones. So
yeah, yeah,
that decide to go outside the box.
crazy
Yeah,
is good, right?
this is good. This is
Yeah,
good. And there's more and more of them coming up. They're being their authentic self.
yeah.
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
would you say are the most common misconceptions that people have about being authentic?
Well, everybody thinks they are already without recognizing the depth of authenticity. So um, we've come into a world that has so much fake on social media now. You don't know what's real, what's not. Even with robots now, you don't know what's real and what's not. And there's going to be more of that. I really have a great deal of compassion for the young people because I'm wondering how will they know what's real? How will they know? They were raised on fake grass, not even knowing what grass is like, what real grass is like, in some
Right.
cases. Um, the commonplace I've learned that 10% of youth, the number increases by 10%, the youth that get plastic surgery at a young age to change their eyes or nose, ears, whatever. But to be raised believing that if I don't like something, I'll just make it fake. I'll just add a fake thing to it, whatever. So I'm in control. Well, yeah, you are in control, but what are you controlling and where are you going with it? So authenticity, it is not, and it wouldn't be so much if there was not so much inauthenticity, because that's what I was trying to say. And
Right.
the influx of social media has definitely, and the robots both have just accelerated that. And now I understand they're having things where they can put in your brain, in where you can think faster. And then I'm wondering how that's going to be with your do. You have to do faster too. You're going to be, it's going to be like kind of crazy. I mean, how is your body going to adjust to what your brain's telling you? I don't understand that. But I mean, I guess I'm not supposed to. But it's just, I talked to a girl last weekend, I was volunteering at an event, and she was thinking about getting one of these things in her brain. I said, "Well, really? What's going to happen how does the body catch up with what the brain is thinking? Sure, you can now figure things out faster, maybe, you know,
Right.
and then who programmed that thing they're putting in your brain and how they program it? I guess I'm too old for that, but
I don't know.
I don't,
Personally, that's not something I'd have anybody anybody messing with.
yeah.
I'm like, we can do a number on our own brain as it is. So, but it's like we've always become this society where we always want things faster, faster, or have it done yesterday. And when people do slow down, it's like they don't know what to do with themselves.
Mhm.
And it's
Well,
like, but you
and
need to. You need to slow down.
robots can do it faster, and they don't take sick leave, so there's that whole conversation.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's why the conversation also is that true authenticity moving forward is going to be a lot of understanding your own creativity, because that's where true authenticity, that's that expressive voice that I talked about in my grid, where how do you express yourself, because the way you and I could both have the same gifts in the
Hmm.
same order, but chances are we're going to express it differently. We're going to be, you express yours in your TV show and your other things that you're doing. I express mine in thinking and teaching and training speakers. So could be the same gift, but just the way that we express it is different. But it takes that level of diversity and differentness and originality and authenticity to really create those new things that makes the world go around, that makes the world grow, that evolves, and it's evolving. So it's important to look at that and not just look at the status quo. Status quo is nice for a while, but in order for society to grow and humans to grow, it's got to be evolving.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like the keeping up with the Joneses and whatever. And I'm like, I got news for you. It's overrated. Causes problems if you don't just, be who you should be, or be who you were meant to be, I should
Or be
say.
the person that your purpose will lead you to be. Be if you are driven by the purpose, if you believe in purpose first of all, and
Hmm.
you find your purpose, then the next thing you want to do is live your purpose and figure out how to do that. Now imagine if you help your children, because the purpose really is identified in the early years when you see what the child can do easily. I'm reminded of a an Olympic star. One year they talked about him when his parents said when he was a child, about 6, they were at a department store, and all of a sudden the kid disappeared. They couldn't find him. And they found that he had found somewhere to climb up to the ceiling of this department store. And the parents, rather than, most of us would have like fussed at them big time, this parent said, "My kid likes to climb. This put him in gymnastics. He won a gold medal." So that's being aware and conscious and mindful of who your child is, the child
Right.
you brought in the world and the gifts that they brought with them, and helping them to develop those gifts for a really joyful life. Because the gifts and talents that they give, if you help them develop them, then no matter what happens in society, they have something that is part of them that they can manage, they can share, they can monetize, and they can have a successful life no matter what happens around them.
Yeah, that's like a conversation I had with one sometime where they were talking about how like parents would like freak out if their kid did this or made a mess. It's like, okay, instead of freaking out and yelling, look at what they've done. And it's like, oh no, actually they're quite creative. Might
Yeah.
not have been creative on the right thing, but that doesn't mean, you have to like totally squash it. You could actually help guide them so they can help have that creativity come out. I think
Yeah.
knee jerk reactions, I think a lot, stifle us a lot.
Well, because we're taught we're supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to raise perfect children, but there's no such thing as perfection. Allow
No,
their
as one of my last guests said, there was no book on how to raise a human being. So, there's no manual on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then human beings are changing. The authenticity is changing because children are coming in now with far more skills. They have these, they used to call them indigo and crystal. Now they're rainbow and star children, and they come with a great deal of knowledge. They even know their purpose and will tell their parents their purpose at an early age, if the parents will just listen and then help them to develop that. Because they're a little more advanced than the standard, if you will, human being, or than what we expected years ago. And this has been going on since about the 1940s with these children coming in. Now adults and senior citizens, but they're still coming and they just have so much more to offer and to bring to the world. So
Right.
God's fighting back in his own way. So, we have to, and as long as we allow that to unfold and allow our children to unfold into what their purpose is, it's very important.
Yeah. Looking forward, what changes do you foresee in the landscape of being authentic in the coming years?
Well, I see it in a way that I'm expanding my own company and I'm adding a lot of the frequency energy. I'm learning that as they get more authentic, their energy rises. And there's more conversation now about energy, vibrations, and frequencies. They even have medical tools now that can listen to your voice and read the frequencies in all the organs of your body. And it's just amazing. I've had that done like 2 times already of two different companies, and they've been so accurate. I've even had CAT scan and blood tests as a result of what was told, and found that the frequencies can actually even some of those things out, and they find these things before the CAT scan does. It's just amazing to me. So that whole thing, it's all about aligning the energy, is what I'm about right now. And because the energy can go in different directions, but
Right.
we're all in one body. I say we're multidimensional, which means we have multiple energies. And if they're going in different directions, we're not a solid person. So my goal with authenticity and the way I'm expanding it is to bring these pieces together so that all the pieces of yourself are aligned and going in the same direction. Because that's what's happening. We get shiny objects, we call, for entrepreneurs, or different projects or stuff we want to get in, and then we find ourselves being disjointed and going in many directions. And that's self, it's failure. It's going to give you confusion. It's going to do all kinds of things. But the happiest lives, the most enjoying lives, is the ones that are aligned. And so your goals are going in the same direction as your body's going, as your job is going, as your leisure is going. They're all playing in the same sandbox, at least. And then that way, it just makes life a lot easier, a lot better. Your longevity, the frequency is more aligned. All these terms that are kind of new to a lot of people, but are very important to who we're becoming on the planet.
Yeah, and it's always fun trying to explain to people how that is because as they have trouble wrapping their head around it. Because like you, yeah, I have that tool too. It's an incredible tool. But yeah, and it's frequencies, and it's not like it's anything new. It's just nothing that was ever taught in our society or school, not in that way. You
This
know,
generation, it was taught centuries ago, if
yeah,
not millenniums ago. But
right,
along the way, other things bear out. But this is something that is so real, you cannot deny it. It's going to come back no matter how long the society might want to poo poo it and push it down and bury it. It's going to keep coming back because it's too real and it's too much a part of who we are as human beings. And without that knowledge, we're not fully fulfilled.
yeah, and I think eventually we'll get contagious on our own, right?
Yeah, some of us are
Feel the
already.
positivity, the authenticity. We'll be growing our own. We'll be growing our own tribe, and we'll start switching those numbers. Get that
Right.
69% to drop.
Yes, that would be good if it did drop, but take a while. But it takes a lot of us to have that understanding and to help move it to that way. Because being human is it's a joy. We know more about galaxies and the universes, and that there's other energies and other life forms, other places. But they're, from my understanding and my research, they're not the same as being human because we have that touch and that feeling that some of the other planets don't have. So it's a joy to be human. So take advantage of it, enjoy it, and don't just try to destroy it, but enjoy the process of the time that you're on the planet and being human and enjoying all the sensual things that we can do, the touchy things that we have, the way that we can feel and move around and we have control over things. And that's not available in some of the other life forms in terms of what I've been reading. I read a lot of progressive stuff that tells you that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah, no, like I said, you got an open mind. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it's really incredible, and it really gets, if nothing else, it should make you think, right?
yes,
Yeah.
critical thinking, that's important. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Listen to your own critical thinking.
Yes.
Um, so we have a few minutes left, Dr. Norma. Your website here, normahollis.com, is that the best place for people to connect with you or to do the assessment or to find out about your classes?
Yes. Yes. NormaHollis.com. That's the easiest one to go to. On that homepage, I would suggest and invite you to scroll down about halfway and take the authenticity assessment. That's the result of the grid that I created. And by answering the 9 questions of the assessment, you will, some of the questions will make you think. And then you will also get your scores that will tell you a little bit more about yourself. We do offer some complimentary calls after that for some interpretation of what you just experienced. And then there's all kind of stuff that I'm in the process now of planning a launch for January 2026. So I have several months to go. And so we're changing a lot of things now, upgrading things. And so you've caught me in the middle of all of that. But normahollis.com is the place to go and take the assessment. And then you'll be a part of my body of individuals that we'll be in touch with as we continue to grow. Because we have a
Nice.
lot to share with society that we want to help to bring more authenticity in the world.
Yeah, and we're always evolving and changing, so I would expect nothing less. So
Right.
when you take it from the overthinker here, the assessment, are you really supposed to think the questions through, or are you supposed to just answer the questions with what pops in your head first?
Well, what's interesting about the assessment, some assessments, the higher the score, the better. When you want to take it again, you want to make it higher. The assessment is really more for you to take time and reflect because we don't do a lot of reflection. So it doesn't matter whether you take the first thing, and some people will just go through tick, 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 tick. I got 100%. I'm not great. Are you really honest though? Are you authentic with yourself? The question is, how authentic will you be? Now, one of the girls that I've known for 40 years, who I met when I was developing this process and has taken my assessment many times, she says every time she takes it, her score goes down because every time she takes it, she's more honest with herself. So the question is, how honest are you in your answers? It's more a question of that because at the end, you will know where your strengths are and where you're vulnerable. And if you have a call with one of us, you'll have more information about whether you're a thinker, communicator, doer, an inner voice person, outer voice person, expressive voice person, and what that means for you and what you need to do in your life to strengthen that or to do whatever changes based on the goals that you have. So it gives you a lot of insight into who you are, how you think, how you're living your life, where you're vulnerable. Um, and it gets that just from you taking the questions and thinking about it. So it's a great value for people, especially if you're in that 69% and you're on living on autopilot, just doing the same thing every day. And you're tired of doing the same thing every day and you want to make a change. And
Right.
this is something that could help you to do that. Yeah. Get you on the path.
Dr. Norma, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing those tips and helping people go from that chaos to get clarity, because I think that's very important, like you said, in being authentic. And as you can see up here, she also has Authenticize Me YouTube channel. So you can also follow her on her YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
But we got like 2 minutes left. Do you have any last parting words you want to leave people with today?
I just want to tell you whether you're a parent, a grandparent, wherever you are in life, help the younger people in your planet understand themselves more and become more authentic and understand the importance of really living your life to your gifts and talents, not to the money. The money will always be there. There will always be ways to make money, no matter who you are or what you do. It may not always be as much as society tells you you want to have. You don't necessarily want that. You're taught to want it. You really just need enough to get to make sure that all your needs are met and that you can have some joy in life. So when you strive and you spend all your days making more, making more, making more, and oh, I didn't get more, I didn't get more, you're putting yourself in a cycle that's going to keep you unhappy forever and really keep you broke in many ways too, because wealth is not just money; it's your state of mind, and that's really far more important. So remember that and stay on. Find your authentic path and stay on it. And if you need some help, reach out to me. I have myself and I have a team of people that we taught all how to be authentic and how to help you to be authentic at all price range. So do-it-yourself classes to year-long programs that'll help you. So wherever you're at, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Norma. So, everybody, hopefully that has given you some insights on how you can be more authentic and go from chaos to clarity. And we will see you all next week.
Thank you. I appreciate being